So here we are at my church. Wanted to give you a quick tour. We're nearing the end of our time in this space. We've been here about 5 years now, and almost every seat is full on Sundays. That breaks like every church growth rule. They tell you to have about 80% capacity. We're at about 95% capacity right now. So we're looking for a new space, but we want to show you around because this is kind of where all the magic has happened for Collaborate Worship. We go out there and we learn what the big churches are doing and then come back and figure out how to apply it here at a small church. So let us show you around. We'll start up here with what we're running for our sound. We got the Behringer X32 Compact here. The reason we went with the Compact is simply because we needed room for 3 people to sit up here in the sound booth. And you can do everything on the Compact that you can in the full version of the mixer. The only thing that's different is there's only 16 mic pre's on the back of this mixer, whereas the full version of the X32 has 32 mic pre's. So if you're using like an analog snake, you might need the bigger full version of that. If you're using digital snake like we are, all of our mics are plugged in behind the stage and then routed here through an Ethernet cable, so it's no big deal for us. But I'll have Dylan come on up here nice and close so I can show you kind of how we have our mixer set up for those of you who are interested in that. How we have our channels organized is we have our vocals first, and then we move into all of our instruments. You got a page down to get to the next set. And then we got backing tracks and ambient mics on that next layer. And the last layer here is kind of like our preaching mic. And right here we have our vocal channels actually run through here twice. So this is actually the raw input for the vocal channel, which is then sent over here to this computer for vocal tuning. So it goes through Waves Tune and then comes back into the mixer through channels 1 through 4. And we actually have a video on that, how to implement vocal tuning without using Dante. You're just using the USB audio interface on the back of your mixer. So we'll link to that in the description if you're interested on how to do that. Here's our DCAs over here. We just have our band group together, our bass and kick drum group together, vocals. We have our verb and delay here, and the reason they are on a DCA is because you need to fade out that verb whenever somebody starts talking and then fade it back in. Just nice and easy right there. And then a few other things. iMac, just so it's easy access here, which is any videos or things that are playing, and then of course the preaching mics. For our buses, we have our Livestream running through a pair of bus mixes. We also have a video on how to do that because it doesn't have to be complicated for your Livestream mix. You don't have to have a different mixer. You can just take what you're putting in your room, modify it a bit, and run it through a couple of buses, and you're good to go. So I'll include a link in the description for that as well. As you can see, all these are empty because we don't have a use for them. Our in-ear monitors are run through P16 personal mixers on the stage, so we don't need bus mixes for in-ears. But we do use the last 4 here of the bus mixes for our P16s because we need to group some things together. The keyboard is a stereo mix, so we group it together into one bus. The drums, obviously there's like 8 mics there, so we group that into one channel for the P16s. We have the click track going here, and a few other things are going through the click track channel as well, like the preaching mics and some other things. The talkback mic from the mixer is all going through that channel. And then we group all of our effects into one bus to send to the P16s so they can mix reverb, delay, things like that in their ears if they want it. So I'll also show you how we process a vocal. We, of course, put a low cut filter on it. It's the first thing. We set our low cut filter at around 180 hertz. This one's set at 173. I always tell people somewhere around 150 to 180 hertz is usually the right setting for a room mix. People tend to get upset thinking that I set that too high, but those are people who are working in the studio. If you're in a studio, you won't set it that high, but in a live sound setting, you're going to set that low cut. And you can even go higher than that if you want. It's just you're trying to find that place where the vocal is clear, but it doesn't sound too thin. For EQ, we normally keep it simple on vocals. We're trying to cut out this nasty range right here, somewhere between 400 and 800 hertz. Is usually that place that just makes people sound nasally and just kind of muddy. So if you apply a good cut right there, it cleans them up quite a bit. Then of course you can add a little bit of shine over here in like the 10 kilohertz and up range by adding a high shell filter. Just makes them pop a little bit more in the mix. Of course, we're also compressing our vocals, and you'll see our settings we have here. We're setting the ratio to 3, the attack to 10 milliseconds, hold is at 0, release is at 52 milliseconds. Then we're increasing that gain by 6 dB because we are compressing down about 6 dB. So if there's a vocal singing in the mic right now, you'd see this gain reduction meter right now hitting about -6 dB on average. And that means you're pushing down that volume by 6 dB whenever they're hitting those loud notes. Works really well. And then of course we are tuning all of our vocals. This is something actually that's pretty new for us. We haven't always done that. we just kind of want to take our live stream to the next level. And the reality is a live vocal is always going to sound a little bit out of tune whenever it hits your live stream. It's just kind of the name of the game. So we're using very light vocal tuning using Waves Tune. So like I said earlier, it's running from the USB audio interface on the X32 over here to this computer. We're using Ableton Live to run Waves Tune, and you can see our settings there. We normally just keep the scale on chromatic, so we don't have to change the key for each song or have a mishap where you have the wrong key selected and then you have some interesting things going on. But yeah, just simple vocal tuning, and it's really made quite a big difference, even in our room mix. We have some really great vocalists here, but just having that slight vocal tuning makes them all sound more together. So you don't notice that they're tuning. It's not like they sound like T-Pain or something like that, but it's there and it helps. So I know it's a controversial subject. If you don't like vocal tuning, I guess you can tell us about it in the comments. People tend to do that, so go ahead. So we also have an iPad connected to our X32, and that's just so that we can roam the room and work on the mix. Because up here in the sound booth, we're in the center of the room, and this is really a good place to mix, but at the same time, you're up at the same height as the stage so that you can see the stage, but the people are standing on the floor, so you want to mix from where they're standing. So we'll always walk around the room during rehearsal just to make sure that we have a good mix everywhere. Something really strange happens in this room where up here in the sound booth, the bass is just real heavy, but then you take a step down on the floor and it's not like that. It probably has to do with the stage being hollow and the sound going underneath it and things like that. So iPad's definitely handy, just so you can make sure you have that mix right in the room. So as far as our PA goes, it's the right size for this room. So flowing up here, we have two PRX 812Ws. So those are 12-inch powered speakers. And that may seem kind of small for, we do like full volume. We run our services normally at about 95 dB in here. So it's a full sound, and these actually do the job. You'd be surprised. You think you need 15-inch to get that full sound. Somehow these 12 inches do the trick. So I guess size isn't always the main thing. So over here is where all the magic happens. We have the JBL SRX 828S, which is more than enough for this room, so we can have all the low frequencies that we want. Actually, we have so much low frequency going on that it causes other problems in our room, like the ceiling shaking and rattling. And before, when we had a projector screen instead of an LED screen, it would make the projector shake every time the kick drum was hit, but hey, it's awesome. For ambient miking, and this is just for the live stream, we have two of these Rode M5 microphones. There's one on that side of the stage as well, pointing towards the congregation. It just picks up a nice feel for our room so that the live stream doesn't sound so, lifeless and dry. All right, for our drums, we have a PDP drum kit, and then we have Dream cymbals. We got a Dream Bliss, a Dream Contact, and then Dream hi-hats over here. For drum mics, we're just running the Audix DP7 mic kit. Everything has a mic, including the kick drum. The only thing we don't have is the overhead mics. I would like to have overhead mics. The reason that we don't is because they would be right in the way of the LED screen behind me. So it's that classic issue of balancing the way it looks versus the way it sounds. We decided to do away with them because we also have these ambient mics that are close by that pick up the sound of the cymbals for the live stream mix. Causes a little bit of a delay issue, but it's not bad, so we deal with it. We have some dampening going on pretty much everything here. That's how we're able to get away with it being uncaged in such a small room. There's dampening on the cymbals. We just put some stuff on the bell here. There's dampening on all the toms and on the snare drum as well. And you probably see that we have these round, clear sound baffles in front of these cymbals. And what those do for us is they keep the cymbals, or they don't keep it completely out, but they keep it from being too much in the vocal mics, because you can see that the vocals standing right in front of the drums are pretty close to the drums. So you need some kind of shield between the drums and the vocals. So our drummer is also responsible for running the backing tracks here at our church. We use Multitrack's playback app, which works really great. We mainly just add in some things that add a little bit more sparkle to the sound, because we have a full band here. But also whenever we don't have a full band, like maybe our bass player, we only have one bass player, and if so she's out sick or doing something else, we just load up the bass track in the Multitrack app and pretend like she is here. It's not the same, but it works. All right, so back here behind the drums, we have all of our racks of stuff going on here. It's mainly just power supply for everything that's going on the stage. We have everything running through a Furman power conditioner. That's how you make sure that you have nice, clean sound. It also protects all of your equipment. So, there's 5 of those bad boys loaded up in there. 2 of them are dedicated to the LED screen. 3 of them run the rest of the sound stuff. Below that, you'll see all of our wireless mics going on. We have 5 of them running in here. And then below that, you'll see our digital snake. And then over here on the side, I don't know if you can see that in the camera, there is the P16 distributor over there, which is running all the P16 personal mixers. So it's all just right here in this rack. So every musician and every vocalist here has their own P16 personal mixer so they can dial in their own mix. You'll see those kind of scattered around the stage, and the vocals are hidden behind this board right here just to kind of clean up the stage a little bit. So that's one of the keys to having great sound in a small room, is to have everybody on stage with an in-ear mix and no floor monitors. There are no floor monitors on the stage. There's none flown. We just don't have sound on the stage because this room's too small for that. It would really muddy up the mix out in the congregation, and that's why we're here. We're here to serve the congregation. So everybody's on in-ear mixes, even those that don't want to be on in-ear mixes have an in-ear mix, and they get used to it eventually.
All right, so now I'm going to take you over visual related things. So first, in this station, we have our Livestream computer. Pretty simple. We just have a Mac Mini that's mounted underneath the tabletop. It's kind of dark under there, or we'd show you. And then this is a Samsung 28-inch 4K monitor. I think it was like around $300. And for the money, it's pretty good. We've enjoyed it so far. And then we're just running OBS for our live stream. Just one camera angle. And then we have that if we want to throw up some lower third slides. There's the IMAX feed, which is coming from this Blackmagic ATEM Mini. And this is what we switch our display inputs for the front of house display up there on the stage. So you'll see that changes that, which also changes it for the live stream as well for that feed. And that's just a webcam out from the ATEM Mini to this computer. And then camera for live streaming. We just have a Blackmagic Studio 4K Plus. We record it to an SSD on that camera, and then later on I punch into the 4K footage, so we have a closer angle for the sermon when we upload it later on. But for the live stream, we're just running the one camera angle. We tried to do that in OBS, but it really does not appreciate 4K footage. It might be a computer limitation, or it might be capture card limitation. I'm not really sure. I didn't do a ton of digging around. So that's our workaround for right now. More people watch the sermon after the fact than they do on the live stream, so that's worked for us. And then you probably saw this already when Cade was talking about vocal tuning, but here is our Pro Presenter computer as well. We're still running Pro Presenter 6 because we haven't felt the need to upgrade. Still works good for us. And surprisingly, it's still working fine on the latest version of Mac OS, so thankful for that. And then we have our really old light board right here. We hate this thing, but we've had it for a long time and it still works. It's one of those where if it's not broken, don't worry about fixing it. We'd like to move to software lighting so that we can have MIDI cues and such, but hasn't been big on my priority list, so still rocking this. We set scenes on these bottom faders here, and you can go, I think right now it's in RGB mode, so each one of these faders operates a color of the backlighting on the stage. And then the only thing we have on this top page is our front lighting. So our lighting setup is pretty simple. So a closer look at stage lighting, we just have some American DJ 5 light pars up in the ceiling. So those are RGB, white, amber, and UV, I believe. So there's 8 of them, and I just installed those recently. Cade was supposed to help me with those, but he wasn't available that week, so I got to do that on my own. And we just had the back line of lighting before, and it was 2 different RGB pars and then some also bars in the middle. I didn't like the kind of light they were casting was inconsistent, so I replaced those with all pars and then added the second row for backlighting the vocalists because we didn't have anything backlighting them before. And then front lighting, I can't remember what model light those are. I'll put it up on the screen, I guess. But what kind of lights are those again? Fresnels, I believe. I don't know. I'll put it up on the screen.
Fresnels? We don't know how to say it.
We don't know how to say it, but they work. They're like the middle of the road kind of front lighting, right?
Yeah, so it's like an ellipsoidal, but not as much control as an ellipsoidal. We can still adjust the beam angle, and there's barn doors on it so we can fine tune it even more, but it doesn't have that sharp edge like an ellipsoidal does. It's a softer.
A little more control than a par can too.
Yep.
And those are one color LED. I think they're 3400, right? 32, something like that.
They're 35.
35.
Yes.
So they're not quite white, not quite warm, nice in between. That's how we like it. They're a little bit cooler than the house lighting, but I kind of like the difference that it gives. We don't want them too warm because the LED screen would look really cold. And we also don't want really cold house lighting because that's not very homey. So we found a balance. I think the house lighting we just moved to 3,000, didn't we? Yeah. So house lighting is 3,000. So not a huge difference, not super noticeable. And there's also never really any cameras on the congregation, so I don't think you really notice it. That's pretty much it. Pretty simple lighting, works for us. I'll put up some sample footage of the live stream so you can see. And then obviously the LED screen up here, we just did a whole video on that. It's been pretty awesome. We're enjoying it a lot. Creating content's a lot more fun when you have a really good display to put it up on. It's just super sharp, super crisp, and we like it. Also adds a nice background for speaking. I'll put up an example of that as well. But yeah, I think that's about it. A few things up on the stage as far as keeping things visually tidy. Kate already talked about this thing that hides the P16s. We used to just have those on stands with all their cables going all over the place. I'll put up a before and after. But I think I got this idea from Victory Church when we did a tour with them. They had their guitar pedal board stuff behind one of these. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. I'm gonna try making one of those. The only thing I don't like about it is it sticks out when the backlighting is on because there's not any color wash on the front of it, but there is on the carpet. So you can see it sticks out a little bit more. But when there's no color wash on the carpet, it actually blends in really well. And then we run 2 wireless vocal mics and 2 of us are on wired. And so I have these just running through the stage. I just cut a hole in the stage and they just feed through there. So there is 4 wired inputs if you need them. There's 2 more over there. And then the carpet's a little messy back here from drumsticks that needs to be vacuumed. But I tried my best to just kind of run all cables in the same place, tape them down onto the carpet where I could. There's a little messy over here, gets messy over time and needs to be cleaned up. Just instrument cables that are gonna be used whenever we're playing. This is the audio interface that runs the backing track, so it's gotta stay down there. Yeah, pretty much it. You can see that some instrumentalists are still on stands for their P16s. It's a little hard to bend down onto the floor when you have a guitar on your shoulder, so I'm not gonna do that to them. And then recently I also got this cabinet, because before we were just kind of haphazardly putting crap over here in the corner, so now we have this little cabinet to store microphones, cables, odds and ends, and it blends in with this black wall really well. You don't even notice it's there unless you're looking for it.
Blends in so well, the camera doesn't want to focus.
Imagine that. And then obviously our curtain here, which Cade's talked about that before, it helps with audio as well as covering up all the crap that's behind it because we don't have any storage in this church. So we store lots of tables back here. And then on the other side, we have chairs stored. We have lots of stuff stored underneath the stage, you'll see. That's one nice thing about having this portable stage is you got lots of room underneath to store things. I wish at some point we would have put some skirting around the front of the stage because it would have looked better and you could have stored more stuff underneath these front platforms without being able to notice it, but it's kind of too late for that. I'm not really worried about it at this point. That's about it. One thing, well, let me talk about some things that I would like to do, but I'm not going to because we probably, as Kate said, aren't going to be here for very much longer. I would have liked to have maybe cut some of the HVAC tubing to where it's not right above the screen and right above the stage, and or at least paint that part of it black because it reflects light. It's really ugly. I'm not a big fan of it. It's not something we never really got around to. I would have also liked to have put some kind of lighting on the curtains, whether that be gobo lighting or washing it with a color, because I'll show you an example. In sermon footage, it kind of just looks like a black hole back there besides where the screen is at. So it would have been cool to do that, so maybe we'll think that through in the next place. Oh, another thing, I really hate these portable stage platforms. They've worked for us, but as you can hear, they're very noisy. And I just don't think they look the best. If we had planned to be here longer, maybe we would have done something more permanent, but for the amount of time we've been here and for as cheap as these were, it worked for us. So I think in our next building we definitely need to do something more permanent. And then if you pan over to the camera, it's on a very ugly tripod. And there's also some cables that are not cable managed right now, which they usually should be kind of taped or tied to the tripod. But we want to do a tripod stand that's just one metal pole that's bolted into the ground, kind of like we just did a tour with Rylan Russell, and he had a really similar thing done at his church. But we might still do that before we leave, because we could use that space for chairs, and it would just look a lot better. So we might see that happen.
Those are some nice sound panels behind you that I forgot to talk about.
Yeah, so here's our sound panels. We have a video on these as well. Falcon Acoustic Design Group, which are some local sound panel creators, made these for us. They determined what we needed, how big they needed to be, all that good stuff. And they've cleaned up our low end quite a bit. If Kate has anything else he wants to say about those, he can.
I think they're great.
They're great. I will link the video to those as well. And then just the sound booth itself. Again, we have a video on that. We did that in the last year. And before it was just some folding tables with a curtain on it, and it was like not pretty at all.
It looked really professional.
No, it didn't. And the cables were all over the place. I don't know why we had it like that for so long. It was actually really embarrassing once I thought about it. But I finally got tired of it. I knew a guy that can fabricate stuff like this. So I was like, hey, Nate, let's figure something out and get this built, because it needs help. Because not only do we have church here, but we have 2 other churches that meet here. And also we run this as an event center throughout the week. And that's just not very professional looking when you have other churches and such meeting here. So very happy with this. I'm glad that we went with the natural wood. Adds a nice natural tone to the room, which is all gray and black. It needed something. We almost went with all black, but I'm glad we didn't.
We got a confidence monitor up there.
Yeah, there's our confidence monitor. That's just a TV we had laying around. And then we had the same guy that built this, built the mount for that. It's just cabled to the ceiling up there, which the curtain is as well. This curtain is here, actually helps a lot. So as you can see, the door to the auditorium is right behind us. And the foyer is a lot of windows. So every time someone opens the door and the lights are down in here, obviously light's gonna shine in. And so this keeps it, 1, from shining up onto the stage, and 2, from just being distracting overall. So that helps a lot. I've never been a big fan of how this is the first thing you see when you walk in, but the pros of natural light not coming into the room are far outweighing that. So.
You know, that's one of those things that we've put off, but I've always wanted to have like a metal sign cut out that says like welcome or something of that nature that's right in front of the black curtain, so it makes it, you know, more welcoming.
Nobody's ever complained about it though. So really quick, if you're wondering about house lighting, how we dim that, so they're just normal bulbs in them, and then this is in a Lutron controller for it, so you can do really small steps of fading. And then this also has a full on and full off button. And then you can also buy a remote control for it, which we have up here on the light board. And it gives you 4 presets. We have full on, and then we have a pre-service setting, and then worship setting, which is just barely on. We like to have a little bit of light during worships for the people coming in late so they're not tripping around. And then there's obviously a full off button. And it's a really nice, smooth fade in and out. So that's worked really well for us, and I imagine it's probably pretty inexpensive. I think Cade set that up.
Yeah, it's pretty inexpensive. The only downside is you can only have so much wattage running through one of those dimmers. We lucked out. I mean, we're kind of like maxed out on that dimmer pack in this room. We have like 16 lights. Those are 100 watt equivalent LED bulbs. So if you have more than that, you're gonna have to figure something else out. I don't think that solution will work for you, but if you're in a small venue like this, it's a great solution. So surprise, I am also the lead pastor of our church. I've been the lead pastor for the last 4 years. And whenever I preach, I like to run my own slides on my laptop from the stage. And so the way we did that, we used to have a wired connection that was an HDMI that ran all the way from the stage to back here, converted over Ethernet, things like that. I wanted a wireless version of that. So the idea that we came up with was to use a Roku device. So we have a Roku plugged into the ATEM Mini so that we can switch between the primary presentation computer and then my computer with just a switch of a button there. It makes it real smooth. People in the congregation don't even know what's happening. But the screen up there is now controlled by my laptop, which is not connected to anything right now. It's just all wireless from the Roku, and I can put up my scriptures and slides and things like that. And that's all controlled from the stage without wires. It's awesome. I love it.
It's really reliable too. We've never had it cut out on us.
Not once. Yeah, works. Now I do restart the Roku at the beginning of every service just to be safe, because you know a good restart does technology a good thing. So if you want an idea of what it sounds like in here, you're gonna have to come to one of our services. We'd love to have you. But the next best thing is to listen to one of our live stream mixes. So we'll give you an example right here.
I will rejoice. I will rejoice. I will dance in your kindness and claim every yes and amen. I will rejoice.
So that sounded pretty good, right? If you want to get your live stream sounding just like that, I have a free course that'll help you out. It's called Livestream Mix Made Simple, and you can get access to it using the link in the description. We will also link to all the other videos that we talked about in this tour in the description, so be sure to check that out. Smash that like button if you want to see more videos like this, and be sure to subscribe so we can let you know when the next video comes out, and I'll see you next time.